dangling and misplaced modifiers. So make sure you're copying into your notes as we go through this video. So the question we're trying to answer is, can you identify and replace misplaced and dangling modifiers? First of all, what is a modifier? So a modifier simply describes some other word in a sentence. So for example, the sentence below has several. Amy's favorite red purse, the one she always carries, was stolen last week. Well, Amy's favorite red is a piece of the sentence that is just describing the purse. It's adding extra information that we don't actually need. Always is just describing how frequently she carries it. Last describes which week we're talking about. And the one she always carries is a whole descriptive phrase that's describing the purse further. So a modifier is any kind of description that we don't really need that just makes the sentence more specific. So a modifier would be words, phrases, or clauses that provide description. So think back, what is a clause? It's part of a sentence that includes a subject and a verb. We did this at the beginning of the year. So my dog Fido, who loves pizza crusts, eats under the kitchen table. Who loves pizza crusts is a clause. It has a subject, who, and a verb, loves. And so this is a piece of description that's describing Fido, the dog. So it is a modifier. So what's the difference between a dangling modifier and a misplaced modifier? Both of these are errors. It's mistakes that we make when we put description in a sentence. A dangling modifier. Dangling modifiers do not have a clear term to modify in a sentence, so the term isn't even written. So that means whatever it is that the phrase is describing is not clear. The term is not in the sentence. For example, climbing the mountain, my backpack fell in the mud. Climbing the mountain is my modifier. It's my extra description that I don't really need. I could just say my backpack fell in the mud, but I'm describing when that happened, when I was climbing the mountain. However, it's talking about me climbing that mountain, but that's nowhere in this sentence. So this modifier is dangling. It does not have a clear term to be describing. We correct this by putting the term into the sentence. So my backpack fell in the mud as I was climbing the mountain. So here's that same modifier, and now it's describing the action that I was doing. So the term is in the sentence, making it correct. On the other hand, we have misplaced modifiers. So a misplaced modifier does not clearly associate with the word or phrase they modify. So what that means is that it has something to modify, but it's in the wrong place in the sentence. So it makes it kind of sound incorrect. It makes it sound like it's modifying something else. So let's look at an example to make this make more sense. He gave his sister the stuffed bear with a polka dot dress. With a polka dot dress is my modifier. It's unnecessary description. I could just say he gave his sister the stuffed bear. The with a polka dot dress adds description. However, it's right next to the bear, so it makes it sound like the bear is wearing a polka dot dress, when in fact, we assume his sister is the one who should be wearing the polka dot dress. So this is misplaced because it is literally in the wrong part of the sentence. It's placed in the wrong spot, next to the bear, so it makes it sound like the bear is wearing the dress. We correct this by moving it closer to the term it's modifying, the sister. So we say, he gave the stuffed bear to his sister with a polka dot dress. The same description, but now it's closer to the term it's modifying, the sister. So now it doesn't sound like the bear's wearing the dress anymore. The sister's wearing the dress. So the misplaced modifier has something to modify, but it's in the wrong part of the sentence. So let's look at some examples. The boy ate a pizza. That's our sentence. And we have three modifiers. Who has a mohawk, loaded with cheese and sausage, and whimpering for a dog bone. And we're going to look at where they could go. So A, the boy, loaded with cheese and sausage, ate a pizza. Well, our modifier is loaded with cheese and sausage. It's an unnecessary description. So, it's right next to the boy. The boy is loaded with cheese and sausage. However, this should be talking about a pizza. The pizza should be loaded with cheese and sausage, we would hope, not the boy. So this is misplaced because it makes it sound like the boy is loaded with the cheese and sausage because they put it right next to the word boy instead of the pizza being loaded with cheese and sausage because they should have put it next to the word pizza. That makes this a misplaced modifier. B, the boy ate a pizza who has a mohawk. Who has a mohawk is my descriptive phrase. I don't really need it. I could just say the boy ate a pizza. So this description is right next to the pizza. It makes it sound like the pizza has a mohawk, which is kind of strange. I've never had a pizza that had a mohawk. So we want it to be modifying the boy, right? We want the boy to have the mohawk. So again, this is misplaced because it makes it sound like the pizza has the mohawk instead of the boy because they put the modifier here next to the word pizza instead of right here next to the word boy. C, whimpering for a dog bone, the boy ate a pizza. All right, whimpering for a dog bone is our descriptive phrase. However, it makes it sound like the boy is whimpering for a dog bone, which doesn't make any sense at all. We assume that there's a dog somewhere whimpering for this dog bone. However, the dog doesn't appear in this sentence anywhere. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. This is a dangling modifier because it does not have a clear term to be modifying. This dog does not appear in the sentence. So this is a dangling modifier. Finally, the boy who has a mohawk ate a pizza loaded with cheese and sausage. We have two descriptive phrases, who has a mohawk and loaded with cheese and sausage. Again, it's just unnecessary description that makes the sentence more specific. The boy who has a mohawk. Well, it's right next to the word boy, and it makes it sound like the boy has a mohawk, which makes sense. Okay. Then loaded with cheese and sausage is right next to the word pizza, which makes it sound like the pizza is loaded with cheese and sausage, which also makes sense. So that means that D is our only correct option. So we're going to look at a couple more examples. So make sure you're copying things into your notes so you have these examples to look at later. So, driving up in a police car, the lost child was found. What is the modifier? Well, driving up in a police car. This is an unnecessary description that just makes the sentence more specific. And what did the writer intend to say? Well, they're trying to say that the lost child was found by some police officer who was driving up in his car. However, that's not really what they say. They incorrectly say that the lost child was driving up in the police car because this modifier, driving up in a police car, is right next to the lost child. So it makes it sound like the lost child was driving the car, which doesn't make sense. In actuality, we want the police officer to be driving the car. The police officer doesn't appear anywhere in this sentence. So that makes this a dangling modifier because the word that this is describing is not in this sentence at all. All right, our next example. The thief was arrested after the house was robbed by the police chief. By the police chief is my modifier. It's my unnecessary description. So by the police chief is my modifier. What did they intend to say? Well, they intended to say that the thief was arrested by the police chief after the house was robbed. However, they put the description here. So it makes it sound like the police chief actually robbed the house because it was robbed by the police chief. However, we want this to really be describing the action of being arrested. The thief was arrested by the police chief after the house was robbed. But because they put it at the end of the sentence here, it is misplaced. It causes confusion and makes it sound like the police chief robbed the house, whereas that's not what they're actually trying to say. So this is a misplaced modifier. All right, our next example, we saw several peacocks on vacation in Florida. Okay, so we saw several peacocks. Our modifier would be on vacation in Florida because it's just adding extra detail, extra description that we don't actually need. If we look at it, on vacation in Florida, well, it's right next to the word peacocks, and that kind of makes it sound like the peacocks were on vacation in Florida. However, we assume that we want to be saying we were on vacation in Florida, not the peacocks, because peacocks typically don't go on vacation. So they intended to say that while on vacation in Florida, we saw several peacocks. Now you can see that our modifier, while on vacation in Florida, is right next to the word we. And so it makes it sound like we are on vacation in Florida. What did they incorrectly say? Well, they incorrectly said that the peacocks were on vacation in Florida. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So this is a misplaced modifier because they put the modifier next to the word peacocks, making it sound like the peacocks went on vacation, whereas they should have put the modifier next to the word we, so that way it sounds like we went on vacation. They misplaced the modifier in the sentence. So this is a misplaced modifier. Our next example, after doing my chores, my mom gave me $1. So what is the modifier? Well, after doing my chores, because it's our unnecessary description. We could just say, my mom gave me $1. So what is the modifier after doing my chores? What did they intend to say? Well, they intended to say that after I did my chores, my mom gave me $1. Because we assume that we earn the $1 for doing the chores. However, what did they incorrectly say? Well, the modifier after doing my chores is right next to the word mom. And the word I, the person who is doing the chores, doesn't appear in this sentence anywhere. So it makes it sound like after my mom did my chores, she gave me $1. So it makes it sound like mom is doing my chores instead of me. And that's not what they're trying to say. So this is an example of a dangling modifier because the term it's trying to modify after doing my chores is modifying mom because the word I doesn't appear in this sentence. So the term that the modifier is modifying is not in this sentence. It's describing me doing my chores. So because they didn't include that, it's dangling, causing some confusion. In our last example, I saw a bear on the way to work. Okay, our modifier is this unnecessary description, on the way to work. I could just say, I saw a bear. So, on the way to work. So, what did they intend to say? Well, they intended to say that while I was on my way to work, I saw a bear, right? Because I would go to work, not the bear. So when I was on the way to work, I saw a bear. That's what they're trying to say. However, they incorrectly made it sound like the bear was going to work because they put the modifier right next to the word bear. So it makes it sound like the bear was on the way to work when I saw him. I just saw him on his way to work. And that doesn't make a lot of sense because I don't know any bears that go to work. So this is a misplaced modifier because the modifier is placed next to the word bear, making it sound like the bear went to work, when it should have been placed closer to the word I, like we did here. We put this right next to the word I. So it makes it sound like I was going to work. So they incorrectly said that the bear was going to work. So again, an example where a misplaced modifier causes some confusion. So now it's your turn to practice. So rewrite the sentences, making the modifier apply clearly to the word it modifies. If there is no subject, supply an appropriate one. So if it's dangling, if it doesn't have a term to modify, insert a term. If it's misplaced, move it so it makes sense. You probably want to do this the same way we've been doing it. So find the modifier and look at what did they intend to say and what did they incorrectly say. So that way you can rewrite the sentence so it then makes sense. This will be checked for homework credit.